Hey, welcome to another episode of Not Scrum Dumb podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the knowledge and skills that you need to get hired as a Scrum Master. I'm Andriana Marshall, professional Scrum trainer at scrum.org, and that is.
I am Grand Scrum Master Scott.
So, this topic I think is really fun and interesting, especially because we've been there before. So, we had these same kind of questions and the same interests of like, how do we actually become a Scrum Master? We've told our story in a previous video. You can check it out on how our journey actually happened, but we do know a little bit about it. So, we've done it. So, trust us. And if you don't, check out our video and our LinkedIn in the description and you can verify. So the first one is, how does the team deliver value? So I think this is really an important thing that a Scrum Master has to know. In a previous video, I mentioned we talked about how you don't need to be technical to become a Scrum Master. And I said, but you do need to understand how your team delivers value. So if I personally work in software, I need to understand the software development lifecycle. If it's marketing analytics, I need to understand, how does my team get to done? How do they deliver value at the end of the sprint? Anything else to add to that, Scott?
Yeah, how does the team deliver value? I would say yes. I mean, you touched on a lot of points there. Marketing, you need to know how the marketing do it, accounting, software development life cycle. Yes, nothing else to add to that. Those are all excellent points.
Hardware, whatever
Yeah,
it is, HR. So the interesting thing, HR is a little bit more difficult because they get a ton of distractions because you never know how
yeah,
urgent things are.
yeah.
Their entire plan could be disrupted, for example, layoffs, right? So if you don't understand their struggle, it's going to be really hard for you to understand how to leave enough room in their sprint for uncertainty,
Hmm.
how to facilitate driving, a change, or if a sprint really does need to be canceled, which is a very tough decision to make.
I like all that. I was thinking as you were speaking, those are all things that you may need to get started. But I'm thinking, Adriana, what if those things doesn't work? What if just knowing the software development life cycle is not enough to help your team get to that done state? Then let's look at the agile methodology umbrella. Now, remember, Scrum is just a framework; it's not complete, so that you may need to add other things to it. So, as looking for the knowledge and the skills, so you know the software development lifecycle, you know the Scrum guide. Start with that, and then if that's not helping you get it done, maybe you go up underneath the agile methodology umbrella and say, hey, maybe I will experiment with Kanban. But if you don't know anything about Kanban, you're going to need to research it. Well, what about extreme programming? If you don't know anything about that, you might need to research and start practicing with it and learn a little bit more about it. DevOps is another one. That's a hot topic. Woo! DevOps. Is there another one that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, anyone. You could even take things from project management and insert them. There's nothing wrong with that. So, knowing other frameworks, that would be our second point, is a really great one because you can take different pieces. There are people that use work limits, and that is known in Kanban, like you mentioned, cycle time, lead time, those type of metrics. So, definitely expand your knowledge outside of the traditional. And I think going into our third point would be, you still need to have some Scrum knowledge. You can't not have any Scrum knowledge. You can't be Scrum dumb. They're definitely not going to hire you as a Scrum Master if you've never done Scrum, if you have no experience, whether that being on a team, acting Scrum Master at some point, or in complete Scrum Master on your team full time. So, anything else to add to that?
Well, how do you get that knowledge? We were just talking about that earlier today in terms of how do you get that knowledge? You
The
can
number one way.
volunteer.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
You go ahead. No, you go
No,
ahead. Go
go
ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
You could volunteer for, I mean, I know this is not cute, this is not sexy. I mean, for those of you, this is not sexy, but hey, I'm pretty sure your church, your non-for-profit organization that you like and love, they want to do Scrum and Agile. Why don't you volunteer and show them how it's done? Use that as an experiment to maybe help them, deliver whatever it is they're delivering, a better service, a better product. I know of a Scrum Master that actually worked for a non-for-profit organization to help build their website. Pretty much every business nowadays have a website. So maybe you get a team together, call it a Scrum team, come up with a product owner, a Scrum Master, some developers do the work, and simulate that. Read the Scrum guide, teach everybody that, have fun, do something amazing, get you some experience.
Yeah, I
What are
think
your
that's a
thoughts?
great one. Even And look at where you can do it at your job is the easiest place. People are always very
Yes.
resistant to that, but that is absolutely the easiest place. If you're afraid to speak up, it's not going to be easy being a Scrum Master because sometimes you're the only one and you really have to be the advocate for Scrum. To add on to that, even developers with no experience have done a project. So a lot of times people are like, oh, do I really have to do that? I don't know anyone that hasn't done some kind of project, even when they're entry level. The last one we're going to talk about is soft skills. As a Scrum Master, you need a lot of soft skills. So I think we talked about facilitation skills. You want to touch on that a little bit more, Scott?
Yeah, just facilitation skills as we identified in a video about our journey. I was weak in facilitation skills. I mean, you can get that through a certification course. You can get that through, like me, I went to Toastmasters to get that facilitation aspect of things. That was just a couple of ways I've got the facilitation skills, and I practice that to get better for my team.
Yeah, then coaching skills, mentoring, conflict resolution, leadership, problem solving, and you really need to have a strong sense of self and strong values, which we talked about in another video, but that's a whole different story. So,
Yeah. What I will highlight there, Adriana, before we leave is I'm thinking about conflict resolution. I see a lot of students now are having, not necessarily problems with that, but I come up in the management ranks before I got to Scrum. So, I got my MBA, so that was all part of my business administration curriculum, learning different conflict resolution tools and techniques. So for those of you who, want to get into this space, I would recommend you go ahead and start researching some conflict resolution, techniques, because you will have conflict on the team, and the question becomes, are you going to, know how to navigate through those waters so that you don't get fired or make the wrong decision? So go ahead and think about that now. Practice that. Just make that aware for you.
yeah, great points. That's it for the latest episode of the Not Scrum Dumb podcast. If you stay to the end of this video, you have a greater attention span than a goldfish. Be legendary, everyone.